to alert them about the mempool size and fees, so that if you want to make a consolidation transaction on the chain, or if you want to open Lightning channels, is another good example. It's best to do that when fees are low, so that you can pay the least fees to get your Lightning channels open. So listening or querying mempool for times when fees are the lowest is something that people find helpful. You can make a Telegram bot for that. You can make a Twitter bot for that. You can kind of do whatever you want once you have the data. So there's all kinds of data you can use in your own apps. All of this is free. All of this is freely available. I will say that there are caps. We don't disclose what the exact caps are. Basically, if you hammer the server with 1,000 requests in a minute, you're probably going to get kicked off. But if you use the API in a reasonable way, then you should be okay. If you do want to make really, really quick requests, one way you can do that is to host your own instance of mempool, in which case you're in control and you can query your API however much you want. The other way is WebSockets, which we'll go through in just a second. But I just want to show you guys here at the bottom, Lightning. I mentioned that Lightning is a new addition to the mempool website, but the API is available for you here. So while I wouldn't recommend running the newest version of mempool with Lightning on your own, if you want to get Lightning information through the API, you can do that if you use the mempool.space version of the API. So you can get all kinds of things like nodes in a country. So this is just an example. This is Lightning nodes in CH, country code, which is for Switzerland. So you can see this is more information about the country, and then the nodes, the Lightning nodes running in that country. You can see the alias of the node, how many channels they have open, the exact latitude and longitude of the server that's hosting that Lightning node, and yeah, so that's the information you get for pretty much for every node that we have. So that's the mempool REST API. So I mentioned before that if you want more real-time data, then the WebSockets API might be useful to you. The cool thing about the WebSockets API is that it just pushes data as it's updated. So there's no need to, with the REST API, you're making a request and then you get a response, and then you won't get another update on that data until you make another request. Well, with the WebSockets API, your information is just kind of pushed to you in real time. So just gonna really quickly show you guys that. We're gonna just gonna copy and paste the data or the example here. Okay, so here is the example that's from the web page, and you'll see that there's data from, oh, let me make it bigger, almost forgot. There's data from all these different categories just loading and changing in real time. So, what I just did was, it's a very simple HTML page, just HTML, and we are basically just listening for updates on blocks, on mempool information, on transactions, and as you can see here on the left, this data is just changing and updating in real time. So for example, here, the mempool information, you can see total fees, the size of the mempool. So there's 5,130 something transactions in the mempool right now, and that's going up. And it's going to keep going up until we have a new block found. So these are transactions, the mempool blocks. So these blocks are exactly what you see. Let me see if I can, 1 second. Yeah, so these blocks that you see on the left, wait. I know that's a bit small, but I did it so that I can fit all the mempool blocks so you can see. So if you look on the left, you'll see that under the mempool block section, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 mempool blocks. These map perfectly to the mempool blocks you see on the right. So it's this exact same information, just in a raw text form that you can use to do whatever you want with. All right, and then that's, yeah, so that's the real-time WebSockets API. And yeah, so I mean, these are just, yeah, these API endpoints you can use in your app however you want. We do have JavaScript packages. They're not updated. So I don't know. I would be careful. They should be functional for the most part, but I know they haven't been updated in a while. So just doing a straight HTTP request is probably your best bet. So for example, on difficulty adjustment, if you wanted to do something like you just copy and paste this, we have the data. We can just do something like this. Get the exact information that we want. But yeah, the data is here for you guys to use in your apps and whatever you guys want to make for your hackathon, and both the REST and the WebSocket API are available and open. So that's all I got. You guys have any questions? See, it says, can we know where the name mempool comes from? So the mempool is actually a term from Bitcoin Core. So yeah, the queue of transactions waiting to be confirmed into the blockchain has, as long as I'm aware of, it's always been called the mempool. Like if you look into the Bitcoin Core code on GitHub, you'll see mentions of the mempool everywhere, and that's because it's a term that was that's been used from the very beginning. Mempool is short for memory pool, so yeah, I mean the unconfirmed transactions are stored in memory, so every Bitcoin node has an allocated amount of memory that it dedicates to unconfirmed transactions. And yeah, that's probably where the term comes from. It's memory pool, pool of unconfirmed transactions stored in memory. So made short, that's mempool. So next question is, can we say that mempool.space is what Google is to internet data? Oh, wow. Yeah, that's actually cool. I never thought about that. Never thought about it like that before, but yeah, you could say that. The internet data, people create websites and they get indexed by Google, and Google finds a way to kind of display them in a way that's searchable and browsable. And mempool kind of does the same thing for Bitcoin transactions. Yeah, that's a nice parallel.
Thanks. I will encourage the participant to ask questions, because this is the kind of opportunities that we don't have enough. So guys, do not hesitate to ask questions. So you have a new question.
Yeah, so the next question is, why are there new blocks with transactions while the one before is not fully complete? Yeah, so that's a good question. It really, it has to do with the way the Bitcoin network confirms transactions. So what you're looking at right now is, like we went over before, the confirmed blocks on the right and the unconfirmed or projected blocks with unconfirmed transactions on the left. What's happening right now in the background is you have miners throughout the world are looking at all the transactions that are in these blocks on the left in the mempool, and they're trying to figure out the next valid block. And as soon as they find that block, they tell the whole world about it. They propagate it to all the Bitcoin nodes in the world, and you have a new confirmed block. This process it's based on randomness. Basically, these miners are running many hashes per second in order to try to find the next block. And so there's, you can, if you look at the history of these past few blocks, you'll see that there was one found an hour ago, and then there was one found 58 minutes ago. So only 2 minutes after that. But then the next block was found 33 minutes ago. So the time between this block and this block was almost 25 minutes. Whereas the previous block was found within 2 minutes. And so it's a very random process, and there's really no telling. I mean, the average time between blocks is supposed to be 10 minutes, but because of the randomness in the situation, it's impossible to know when a new block is actually going to be found. So you'll have times where a new block is found, and it could be soon after the next block, or it could be a long time after the last block. It's just, there's no way to tell. I don't know, I hope that answered your question. Anyone else?
Okay, until there is anyone else, I don't know if you have some advices. So I know I heard you give some to the participant, but what is the best way to start reading documentation on mempool before using it? Where do you advise to start with?
Yeah, I think so. What I found is that the best way to learn about stuff, especially when it's technical, is to just do it, even if it seems very simple. So I would say, here on the API documentation, just kind of, find something that interests you. So maybe you're interested in, yeah, this is a simple one. So maybe you're interested in the Lightning Network and you want to just understand the Lightning Network a little bit better. Well, find, an API endpoint that you're interested in, and just like play around with it. So here, you can click on, just click on that API endpoint, and you can see information about the network. And then you can see here, you can also pass in a time period. So let's say we want to look at the Lightning Network over the past 3 months. Well, we can just go here and replace latest with 3 months. And now we have information on the Lightning Network for the past 3 months. So just like, copying and pasting, just to start out with, as simple as it is, just can help you get a little bit more comfortable with what you're doing, what you're looking at, and just helping you get different kinds of information and exploring what you can get. And then, as you want to, once you do that a few times, you'll probably just naturally start to wonder about things like, what if I wanted to make a graph with information about the Lightning Network over the past 3 months, for example. So you could then look into ways of, okay, once I have this data, for example, what is a way that I can take this data and make a graph with it? And then you could like kind of explore ways to make graphs using code and kind of get into that. So I don't know. I guess my advice is that it's a very step-by-step process. Like if you're just starting out, I don't know what level you guys are at or how much experience you guys have with programming and stuff, but I taught myself how to program from scratch. And so for me, it was a very much starting from like the really, really simple basics and just building from there little by little. So next question is, what is the best use we can do of the mempool that you did not see implemented yet? Oh, I don't know. There's a lot that I think you can do with the data. I mean, I've seen someone. So lately, there have been a couple of cool projects. So a few weeks ago, somebody made a. Let me move off the screen because it's a little weird. A few weeks ago, somebody released a app for the iPhone that showed basic Bitcoin data on your lock screen as a widget. I think it's called Chain Clock. Let me see if I can find it. That was kind of cool. Chain Clock iOS widget. I think this is not it. Like Bitcoin Chain Clock iOS widget. Okay, I don't remember what it's called, but anyway, they were basically just they're querying the mempool API and showing information about the mempool, about the latest block height, stuff like that, right on your iPhone lock screen. So, you know, if you're interested or curious about the Bitcoin network, then instead of opening your phone and going to a website and doing all that, you can just turn your phone on, and right on the lock screen, you'd have that information right there at your fingertips. That's one example. Then I think another cool example is somebody was making well, this is a bit advanced. I mean, you probably can't do this in a hackathon in a couple of hours, but somebody actually made a watch, like a smartwatch, and they connected it to the mempool API and were able to get some cool information about the Bitcoin network right there, like on your watch, which is also cool, I think. But aside from that, like things I've seen are like I was saying before, like Twitter bots, Telegram bots, stuff like that, to like tell you about fees, like when fees are lower, or like when the mempool clears, or just notable information about the Bitcoin network that can help you do other things. So like I was saying before, when the mempool clears, it's a good time to open Lightning channels, or you know, or to just send transactions. If you have like consolidation transactions that you want to do to bunch together a whole lot of UTXOs, it's much cheaper to do that when fees are low. Otherwise, you pay a lot more for that kind of stuff. But yeah, the sky's the limit. The data is all here, and then if you guys want to make mobile apps, or if you want to make chat, like not chat bots, but bots, like social media bots, or anything, you can do that. Oh, looks like you might have found it. Ah, yeah, this looks different, but this is actually open source, so that's cool. Yeah, I think this is it actually. Yeah, so here's an example of what I was talking about before. It's a iOS widget that shows you the current block height, as well as fees. I think this is fees right here. Minimum fee of 1, and then high priority of 10, low priority of 2. So, yep, cool. Thanks for finding that. What's the difference between mainnet and signet? So the mainnet Bitcoin network is the one that, it's the real network. It's the one that everybody uses, that's worth a lot of money. You know, it's the one that we're used to looking at and hearing about when we think about Bitcoin. The signet network is meant as a test network. So as you can see here, so we're on the Signet part of the mempool.space website. There's not much activity. There's not much going on. I believe, if I remember correctly, blocks are, or like mining blocks is centralized. Like there's some group of people that mine blocks every few minutes. So it's not decentralized like the mainnet Bitcoin network is. The main purpose of this network is for testing. So if you're developing a Bitcoin wallet, or if you're developing something that requires you to test your software on a network, a Bitcoin network that follows all of the Bitcoin rules, but doesn't have all of the traffic of the main Bitcoin network, then Bitcoin Signet is what you're going to want to use. Also, it's much cheaper, right? So Bitcoin Signet transactions are way, way, way cheaper. They basically don't cost anything because you can get Signet coins without paying for them. Obviously, getting Bitcoin is not cheap because Bitcoin costs a lot of money. So if you're a developer looking to make an app, then Bitcoin Signet can be very helpful for you. And it's the same thing with testnet. Testnet is a little bit, it's had some issues in the past. I don't remember the exact specifics of it, but it's less consistent. It can be a little bit harder to work with, but basically both testnet and Signet are meant for testing, for developers to test their programs on the Bitcoin network without spending too much money to do that. Yeah, so I just talked a little bit about testnet. Before that, there's a question: if the mempool is a purgatory, can it be used to check if a transaction has not been spent yet? Okay, so I don't know what you mean by purgatory, but I can tell you that you can, yes, you can tell. Yeah, so you can, let's look at a transaction here, for example. So this is an unconfirmed transaction that's currently in the Bitcoin, in the mempool. You can see that it's not confirmed. So therefore, it has not been sent yet. So if we go down here, we can see that this is a very simple transaction. It's taking this Bitcoin, this is the input, and it's going to this address as the output. This person has not yet received this money, okay? So as long as this transaction is unconfirmed, whoever controls this address will not be able to spend this money. Now, there's also no way to cancel a transaction. So if you're the person who controls this address and you change your mind and you say, oh, I didn't want to send that money, can we stop it? Can we cancel it? The answer is no. So yeah, you can use the mempool to look up pending transactions, and you can kind of see where they're coming from and where they're going, but you cannot actually influence them in any way. So, well, the exception to that is changing fees. So this gets a little bit more hairy, but basically if you make a transaction and you set too low of a fee, so this set a fee of 17, which puts it in a very good spot. See what this arrow is pointing to the first mempool block. But let's say you set a transaction fee of 1 or 2. I'm trying to see if there's, oh, here we go, 6. No, that's 20. 1. Okay, see this transaction set a fee of 1.52, and you can see it's projected to confirm later. So not in the first block and in the second block, but toward the end of the second block. Let's say you make this transaction, it's unconfirmed, and you want to confirm it quicker, but you made the mistake of setting too low of a fee. You can do something called RBF, or something called CPFP, which allows you to increase the effective fee of the transaction so that it's confirmed quicker. That's just that's I only mentioned it's a little bit more advanced. The only reason I mentioned it is that it's the only way that you can influence a transaction once it's made. Otherwise, there's no way to to change a transaction once you've made it. So yeah. Anyone else have questions, comments? Is mempool data available in French? Yeah, so mempool is available in lots of other languages. So if you go on the main page on the bottom, you'll see lots of other languages. Il y a français aussi. I took French a long time ago, so it's a little rusty, but yeah, French is here. The data, I believe, is only in English, but it's mostly just numbers and variables, so it doesn't really matter. But yeah, the website itself is available in French. And yeah, you can use it in French. The whole website should be translated, I think. Looks like the Lightning one is not. Okay. Like I said, it's new, it's in beta, so give us a little bit of slack here, but the main pages, the dashboard for mining and the main page are available in French.
So I think this is an idea on how to start contributing to the open source ecosystem. So someone can go take a look at the GitHub of mempool and start translating the Lightning one. So thank you, Dominicus. Thanks a lot for this presentation. It was super clear. I think now the participants, they know that they can use mempool to see the status of the transactions, to see how the blocks are going, when they are validated. They can use also the mempool to, let's say, to speculate on the fees. So they can choose fees low or high, depending on the speed they want the transaction to be validated. So they can also use the APIs, so they can integrate it in their project. I mean, you will need those APIs because no matter the project you're building on top of Bitcoin, if it's all, check the transaction status always. Currently, there is a debate around replaced by fees, but we are not there yet. So every time you would need something, a call to tell you if the transaction is confirmed, how many confirmation, or it will be confirmed in how many blocks. You can also need the address that are in this transaction and all other stuffs. And finally, he just told you also you can host your. I mean, mempool.space is using their own Bitcoin nodes. You can use your own Bitcoin node as a backend for the mempool.space. So I try to resume all that was said. I don't know if you have last word, Unicus, or and the question. I have one last question that I ask every teacher. Let's say,
Sure.
what is Bitcoin to you?
Getting philosophical, huh? What is Bitcoin to me? I guess Bitcoin is it's a basis for a parallel world. I think a lot of the issues that bother me and that bother a lot of people in Bitcoin and that impact everybody in the world are the result of fiat money and fiat thinking and fiat concepts. But Bitcoin is not only a way out of that, but it's a mentality and a philosophy that are totally parallel to that fiat mentality, that are separate, that are that cannot be violated or or bent to the whims of a leader or of people who don't have good intentions. And so it's just a very strong and a very solid basis to build a better world. And that's how I think about it.
Thanks. Do you have last word or advices for the participants before we finish?
Yeah, I guess just kind of like what I said before, just like you know, don't be afraid to just tinker and just try to explore the mempool API, of course, but also the code. You know, like I said, the code for mempool is up there. The code for Sparrow is up there on GitHub. The code for a lot of Bitcoin projects is open and out there and available. And it's going to seem really hard at first, probably. And you know, if you're not used to the command line, or if you're not used to exploring raw data and numbers and stuff without a kind of graphical interface, it's going to seem a little bit intimidating. But it's extremely powerful to be able to make things and build things, especially in Bitcoin. You know, as I'm hoping it's going to be the basis of a new world. And so to be able to use this data and these tools to build is going to be extremely valuable. And that's why I was so excited to present here and talk to you guys, because what you're doing with Bitcoin and this hackathon, I think it's a really good thing. And we need more people to understand this stuff and build on it. And yeah, it's you know, as a self-taught developer, it's hard, but it's totally worth the hair pulling and the struggle to understand how to use how to build with all these tools. So yeah, best of luck.
Thanks a lot, Henrikus. So guys, do not hesitate to follow him on Twitter. I just put his Twitter handle on our Telegram group. And so if you have questions, go to the Bitcoin, to the GitHub page, or we'll try to reach out to him if he's available. So
absolutely.
Thanks a lot, guys. Thanks a lot, Henrikus. Bye-bye.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thanks. I will
All right, take care, guys.
hang out the code. 5 seconds.